Hello, my dear church boys, and welcome to Saint Robert's Day Game Pickup Podcast episode number 49, where I will talk about the mental game of solo day game travel. Long-term solo travel is one of the most life-changing things I've done, but it's also one of the hardest things I've done. When you go on a longer solo trip, let's say at least a few weeks, and you're on your own, it can really fuck with your mind. You're away from your city, you're away from your home, you're away from your friends, and you are in this city where you don't know anyone, and maybe the day game isn't going as good as you expected, and it can sometimes be really hard. So in this podcast episode, I wanna give you my view on it, what has helped me, and my some of my travel stories, and basically what's my take on what you can do to make the most out of your day game trips. I will specifically talk about real day game trips, at least a few weeks in one city, a month ideally. And obviously, not everyone can do a month-long trip because maybe you have a 9 to 5 job and you need to take a vacation, and there is only so many vacation days in a year. But well, 2 weeks is enough in easier cities if you have good basic understanding of day game and are already getting laid in your hometown. You can go to a city with a lot of tourists where the vibe of the city in general is pretty playful, where people go to kind of let loose a little bit. That's why cities like Prague are so known for day game and so popular for day game. There are so many day gamers. Well, because that's a city where so many tourists go from all over the world, and they go there to let loose a little bit, to party a little bit, and that's why it is such a popular city in Europe for day game. Because well, it's not easier to day game there, as it's not easier than your city most likely, but it's easy compared to many other cities where you can go on a day game trip. And I will not talk, this isn't about cases where you go on a week-long trip to a city and you try to get laid fast, or this isn't on one of those Euro joints where you go like a few days in one city, then you go to the next city, next city, and you're maybe with your friends. That's not a day game trip, that's a fun trip. Right now, I am recording this podcast from Hungary, from Budapest. I have come here for at least a month. I just came here for a week, a month back, to coach a student, to check out whether I like the city. I decided it's an amazing city. It's full with beautiful girls. It's really amazing for day game. The quality and the traffic. It's just beautiful. It's a cheap city. It's beautiful. So many nice bars and cafes, and it's just amazing. And I decided to come here for at least a month. I booked a place for a month, and I don't know yet how long I'm staying. But so far, it's been an amazing experience. As I told on the previous podcasts, this isn't a place to come if you are a beginner day gamer and if you want to do your first day game trip. I really think there are way easier cities to go to. Because, well, once I came back here and I day game for myself instead of coaching, I had to kind of readjust my game, because I will talk about this later, but each time you go to a new city, you are learning day game again. You are learning what works in this particular city. And in the beginning, when I was going out here, I would get tons of blowouts. Girls just wouldn't stop. They would eject super fast. And in the beginning, I couldn't understand, what the fuck am I doing wrong? What's wrong? And I was a bit of in a weird state, and it fucked with my vibe, which then again fucked with my game. But then I adjusted. I did what a good day gamer does when he travels. I looked at what can I do to, what should I focus on? What are the parts in the set that I struggle with the most? I changed my open, and boom, growth started to stop. I got my first date with a lovely Hungarian girl. I got my first lay here. If I arrived on a Sunday, I think it was 16th, then on the next Saturday, so a week later, I got my first lay here. On the next day, I went on a date with a beautiful, cute Russian girl that's been living here for a year. I wasn't really sure what she's looking for when she went on a date, and I had a bit of a I was thinking maybe she's looking for something maybe she's just being the stereotypical Russian and looking for some kind of someone to take her out and wine and dine her. I wasn't sure about that. After the date, I kind of saw some mistakes I made. I should have tried to pull on a first date, but I got several red flags that all she wanted was someone to buy her cocaine, because it turned out she's doing coke every day, and she kind of said she's never bought it for herself. There's always someone else buying it for her. It's like, yeah, one red flag after another, and but it's been an amazing time here, right up until this point. I've been here for 1.5 weeks now, and now, well, I fixed my stop. My stop works. Girls stop. They stay in the sets. We are having conversations. I am getting contacts. I went out yesterday, did 11 sets, got 6 all contact details, whether that's a number or Facebook, but I still try to close with the number. I've actually even disabled data for Facebook and Instagram on my phone, so I wouldn't use social media on my phone as much. So even when a girl wants to go for the Facebook, I don't have the data for the app, so she has to find me on Facebook and add me, because I just don't have data. And if she doesn't go for it, then, well, there's nothing I can do because I cannot open the app. But yes, if in the beginning the Budapest was pretty hard and I didn't get any results, then it took me a week to get the first lay, and the next day a first date with a really beautiful Russian chick. And now it's going pretty good. Like the sets are good, the street part is good, and now I just have to keep working to get more dates and to get lays with the girls that I came here for. They're really young, really hot ones, and there is plenty of them. And as you can see, if I was struggling for the first week, then I think a lot of day gamers here would struggle in the first week when they're here. And a week is if you're really good at adjusting your game and learning what's working and what's not working. So the key here for me was to understand that you have to do really strong stops. Because when you learn day game in one city, you kind of build some habits that you know work really well in that city. For example, in most places where I go to, I don't do like the aggressive front stop where I run around the girl and I'm completely in front of her. What I do is I can open from the side or from the back. And that works in many cities. That works in Riga, that works in Prague. For me, well, not for my students, but for me, it even worked in New York City, which is unbelievable. But here it does not work. Wherever there are many people trying to sell you something on the street, tell about their religion or beggars, if the open is weak, then you won't get far with it. So I had to learn that I had to do a really strong front stop, and as soon as I started doing that, I basically got back to the basics. I started doing a strong front stop, a direct open, and I found some stacks that worked really good for me. And usually when I found a few stacks that work good for me in a new city, I just stick to those stacks. And yeah, that's what I've been doing here and getting all the results. As said before, if you're not experienced, then do not come to this city and expect to get laid, because this city isn't an easy day game city. It isn't a pussy paradise at all. So with this being said, a few housekeeping things. As you know, I record this podcast once a week or once in every 2 weeks, depending on how busy I am with coaching and Skype coaching. So if there is anything more I want to send to my audience or let people know, or maybe some stories or live reports or anything else, then I usually send it out to my mailing list, or there is a shitload of stuff going on in our Day Game Church Telegram group chat. So if you wanna hang out with other day gamers or not miss the stuff that I send out to my readers, then just join the mailing list, join the group chat. You can do both by going to my website, saintrobert.blog, that is strobert.blog, and fill any of the forms on the website. And by the way, if you're planning a day game trip, especially if it's in Europe and you want to talk to other day gamers, find out more about the cities, whether that's somewhere in like a city like Prague, or maybe you want to go to Poland or one of the Baltic states like Latvia or Lithuania, or maybe Budapest or Belgrade. There's plenty of guys in the group chat that have been to those places and know a lot about those places. So just if you want to know anything, go to the group chat, introduce yourself and ask your questions. One important note is, if you just show up in a group chat and ask a question and don't introduce yourself, then, well, don't expect too many answers, because think of it as day game. you open a random chick and you start asking questions. Why would she answer to any questions if she doesn't know anything about you? So make sure you introduce yourself, you tell a bit about yourself, your experience, so that guys can see that you're bringing some value to the group instead of just joining and asking all those questions and, hey, listen to my site, hey, do this, do that, blah blah blah. And no one kind of likes that guy, just as girls don't like bad opens. And I'll be staying in this city at least until mid-September, but I think I will be coming back later and probably spend a few more weeks or a month here, because just because of how much I love the girls in the city and how amazing it is for day game and for coaching. So if you wanna get some coaching in this city, then send me an email and I'll send you more details. You can go to my website, strobert.blog, and there is on the top menu, click on daygame coaching, read about everything how daygame coaching works, fill the form and say you want to do the coaching in Budapest, and I'll send you more info about the pricing and how it happens and whatever else you need to know. And the last housekeeping thing is, well, this is episode 49, and the next episode is episode 50, which is, I think of it as a small milestone for a small cornerstone. And I was thinking about how to make these podcasts even better, and I thought I could do what some other day game podcasts are doing, and I could actually analyze some infield recordings. Many guys want to listen to infield recordings. Many guys want someone else to listen to their infield recordings. So what I might do, I might go over some infield recordings that guys send me and analyze those recordings on the podcast, where you could basically see the analysis I do when I do Skype coaching calls, where guys send me their infield recordings. I go over them, I take notes, and then I explain them. What was good in a set, what was bad, and what exactly they should focus in their sets. Like what's like the one or two things that they should focus on for the next month, for the next 100 sets, to really improve their game. But it really, whether I'll do it or not, really depends on the demand. If there are enough guys interested in me doing that, then I'll do this. And there is a really simple way to see how many people are interested. Record an infield recording of yourself on the street doing a day game open, and send an MP3 audio to me, to my email. If you are on the mailing list, you know my email. If not, it's robert@strobert.blog. And depending on how many emails I get, how many recordings I get, if I get enough, I will start doing this. If not, then I'll stick to the podcast format that I'm doing until now. The rule is, this is for new day gamers. If you've had coaching with me and you want me to analyze your recordings, then this isn't the thing to do. But if you're a fresh day gamer who I haven't coached, I haven't listened to your sets, and you want me to listen to your sets and give you feedback and tell you what you should focus on, so send me a recording. It should be no longer than 10 minutes long, one recording, and send it to my email. I'll pick one of the recordings, I'll go over it, and I will analyze it publicly. Obviously, all the personal details have to be edited out, so make sure you do that. Remove names, company names, where if she says which company she works for, or anything like that, like phone numbers, so anything that a girl could be identified by. Make also sure that it's a short recording. So if you recorded a 2 hour long session and there is like this good set from minute 23 to minute 29, then don't send me the 2 hour clip saying, oh, from minute 30 like this to minute that there's the good set. No, cut it out, edit it, and then send it to me. And if I get enough recordings, then I'll start doing this. It really depends on you guys, how many of you want me to do this. And also, this is for the guys that go out. That's why I will only judge the kind of the demand by how many sets, how many recordings I get. If I get like 100 emails of guys saying, yeah, do that, but I don't get any infields, it means you're only interested in consuming content, but aren't actually going out, doing sets and recording your sets. And then we'll go and watch some infields on YouTube. That's not it's not what I do. I will only judge the demand based on how many recordings I will receive. So let's talk about the day game trips, the day game traveling, solo day game traveling. And here we're not talking about someone who has seen a few YouTube videos, read one book, and goes to cheap cities in Eastern Europe and gets drunk and opens chicks. There are plenty of guys like that kind of have watched some game videos, but it's basically like a stag party, like a small version of a stag party where a few guys go on trips, get drunk during the day, and then kind of day game on the streets. Well, that's not really day game, that's sex tourism. Or maybe guys who are going out day gaming in groups because they travel in groups. There's like 4 guys together in a group walking around talking about game all day, but instead of opening, they do some social freedom exercises. They see other day gamers on the street, and they go talk to them and discuss game. And but in the end, they only do a few opens each day, or maybe they do indirect game. I'm really talking about solo day game trip, for the intention of the trip is to go and learn the game and get laid. It isn't to go and party with your mates. The intention of the trip is for day game, and let's say it's 2, preferably 3 weeks at the minimum. There are 2 reasons, in my opinion, to go on a longer day game trip. Number one, it's simple, it's fun. It's like traveling, but with a more interesting goal. You are going, like when I go on a trip, I go there, let's say why I came to Budapest. I came here for a month, and it was an experiment for myself. I wanted to explore the city, obviously, so it's kind of tourism in a way, but I wanted to explore the game here. I wanted to learn what works here. I wanted to learn how I have to adjust my street game, how I had to adjust my dating game here. It wasn't like a exploration of my own game. I did this to kind of evolve in my day game skills. But basically it's for fun. I know I will meet some guys here. Mario was here when I arrived. He's coming here later today as I'm recording, or if you're listening to this after it's, well, yeah, when it's published, then Mario is already here. So I know I will hang out with him, and I'll meet some other guys, and I'll meet some chicks. It'll be amazing, but it's for fun. And the other reason to go on a longer day game trip, well, I view it as day gamers' rite of passage, or whatever is the name that they use in many places and tribes, where you go from a boy to a man. Day game travel, going on a longer solo day game trip and learning to get laid in another city, is how you take your already evolved day game to the next level. I didn't start traveling for fun. I had really good results in Riga, Latvia. I was sleeping with young, hot girls. I had sick level of abundance, same day lays, threesomes, foursomes. I even had girls sending their friends to my apartment so I could fuck those friends. I had made it in day game in Riga, but I knew that being good in one city doesn't mean much. So however good you are in your city, it doesn't mean that much. You can get your game to, let's say, to 7 out of 10 if you're day gaming in one city. But if you want to get really good, you have to day game in other cities. Each city is a little bit different. First time I went abroad, it wasn't for day game. It was basically I wanted to go somewhere for a few days, and I just wanted to do some sets in another city. So what I did, I was living in Riga, Latvia at that point, and I simply went to Lithuania. I went to Vilnius, and it was just over the weekend. And the idea wasn't to go on dates or anything like that. I just wanted to do a few sets in another city, and I did it. I run like maybe, I don't know, 10-20 sets over the weekend, just to kind of get the feel, how is it to day game in another city, how is it to day game in English. And I thought, if I like it enough, then I might come back. But my real first day game trip was actually when I first started coaching. I coached a few guys in Riga, but then the first day game trip where I went to another city to coach someone was when I went to Krakow, Poland. I think the first guy I coached there was Frank, and it was autumn 2018. I think October. I think it was October, and I went there and I went out day gaming. I could run decent sets. The girls would stop, or I could kind of figure out how to stop them. I could run the sets, but then they would flake or they would not come on dates, or some of them would come on dates because they were interested in meeting a foreigner, or maybe they were looking for a boyfriend, but they were not going on dates to fuck me. I had to adjust my game, and I was there I think for like 1.5 or 2 weeks, and a week after arriving, I got my Polish flag. I met this cute musician girl, kind of very hipstery, but with a very nice body, and that was my first Polish lay. I went back and I came back a month later to coach Mr. V and slept with a young Polish virgin. And I felt, well, if I had two lays in a city and one of them was a virgin, in first case it was a first date lay, in the second case it was a second date lay. I think it was a second date lay. And I knew it was time to move away. It was time to move away to other cities. And then my next day game trip, in kind of my day game evolution, I went to Prague, and I loved the city for the amount of hot tourists. I wasn't necessarily a big fan of Czech girls, but I had amazing time there. I slept with several Russian girls. My first time there, I slept with a Russian girl who's been living there for a while. I went on a date with a Czech girl, but that didn't really go anywhere, and she disappeared after the first date. So total in Prague and a few trips there, I slept with I think two Russian girls that were living there, two Russian girls that were on a trip there. Um, yeah, one of them actually just asked me for directions, and she was cute, and it kind of went from telling her where she has to go to gaming and teasing and challenging and going for an eye date and then sleeping with her, and it ended and one Chinese girl who was in Europe for the first time. It was my last day in Prague, and I just wanted to get a new lay. I hadn't, I think on that trip I didn't have a lay. I think I was like, yeah, I have to go, or I had one, but I wanted something else. I wanted something else than a Russian girl. So we went out, and it was my last day there. I was like, yeah, I'm going for a same day lay. I didn't give a fuck. And my fourth open was this very, very beautiful Chinese girl who was in Prague, to walking back to her hostel after exploring Prague for all day. And yeah, we ended up going on eye date, and not too long later, we ended up being in a bar that's in the like right in front of my apartment, and down to the apartment, and boom, I had my Chinese flag. Talking about Chinese flags, you know how there is this political situation with China and Taiwan, and whether Taiwan is a different country or part of China. Well, the first Asian flag I got was with a chick from Taiwan, so I made my political statement by calling those two different flags, like flag of Taiwan and flag of China. And yeah, the last time I was in Prague, I got my Czech flag. Finally, it took me a long time to get my Czech flag. And it's not like I didn't want to spend more time there uh, and explore more Czech girls, but because of the amount of day gamers there, I think the beauty of Prague lays only in the amount of tourists there, because since there are just everyone's on the same streets, day gaming, local girls have been opened countless times, which it definitely doesn't mean you can't game them. You can definitely game them, as I have, and as my students have had like lays with local Czech girls, and they still like being opened in some cases, not in all cases. But the beauty of Prague lays in the amount of tourism, or the amount of beautiful tourists that go there. Every city I go to is like a journey, like an experiment for me. I'm always excited to go to new cities. And don't get me wrong, Poland was nice. Prague was nice, but not every day game trip is nice. I've had day game trips where I went out for a few times and I had booked a place for a month and I had my flights back after a month. But after going out for a few times, I realized I hate the city. I don't like the girls and I don't want to spend any time there, and the weather is shit. And I think the worst day game trip I've been to was Romania, Bucharest. And I just had a shit month there because the city wasn't nice and the girls, I did not like Romanian girls at all. So I learned that I should explore the city before I go there for a month. And another story I want to tell you that demonstrates more the tough side of day game travel and not the sunny side is have me and a bunch of other guys went to Belgrade, Serbia, autumn last year. We went there, I think, something like, I don't remember, like early October to like early November for a month. There was a bunch of guys. It was like this international meetup that we did. I was there, Mr. V was there, Frank was there, Mr. T came. Um, I think Mr. K was, I was coaching him there. Matt from Germany was there. Some of them had their friends with them. We were like a bunch, like a huge band of day gamers there. And I was there for at least a month, maybe even a little bit more. And to be honest, I learned the hardship of countless blowouts and very traditional close-knit nation. I had some dates to nowhere with locals there. I had a really small mental breakdown. My breakdown was so bad that I even did some Tinder there. And I got a few lays with average girls there, one local and one Turkish chick that was living there. And other day gamers didn't have it too well as well. Well, they did have dates and they all had some of them had really cool stories. I mean, on my blog there is a story that Frank wrote about how he fingered a chick in a very public place in Belgrade. I think it was like their castle or like the fortress in Belgrade, and it's like a crazy fucking story. Other guys had tougher breakdowns, but I don't want to get into that because they will know who I'm talking about, and the problem is many other day gamers will know who I'm talking about. So be careful about going to tougher day game cities before you really have a stable game, like a really good foundation, and you have a lot of other shit going on in your life and during your travels, not just day gaming, which is something I'll talk about later. But on a good side, on one of the days I was out to do 10 sets. I had done 9 sets. They were all shit, went to nowhere. And as I'm going home with the idea that I'll do one more set, I see this beautiful girl with a camera photographing, making photos of streets and just wandering around. And I know she's not from here. I know she's a tourist. And as I open her, it turns out she's a Russian girl there for several days. And I have to tell you, these were some unforgettable days with her there. It was really amazing. It was one of the in day game, once you have enough experiences, you have those times where you met someone and you just clicked and you had really great time. Well, this was one of the cases. We had amazing time together. As for the local girls, I did not crack the code. As hot as they are, I don't think it's worth the hassle and hardship to return there for day game for me, but I'll probably do it one day when I am ready for it. And well, right now I'm in Budapest, as you know, and I'm here for at least a month, as I told. But the first days were hard, and it still is kind of hard because no one in the beginning was going for number closes. Most closes were Instagram or Facebook, or even those were flaky. But I still got the flag and got the date with the Russian chick. I'm still trying to crack it. What works, what doesn't. Well, I know many things that don't work by now, but my next experiment will be to run longer sets and try to go for a few eye dates and see how that impacts the results. So as you see in all those different stories, every city is different. Although the foundation is the same, like the fundamental day game skills, the same model that you have to understand and you have to get really, really good at it to get successful, even though it's the same, each city needs a little bit different approach, and learning to find that approach and adjust to each city is what takes my game to the new level. Each time you learn to find what works in a city, you learn to do it faster and faster, and then you go to a new city, and instead of taking 2 weeks to learn it, you learn it in a week or in 3 days or maybe in 10 sets. I don't know. And the best proof of how much your game has evolved after a few day game trips is to go back to your home city, do some sets there, and see how much better your results are. Because after all the trips I did throughout the winter, because I went to Toronto and I went to Chicago and I went to New York, all for coaching, and I saw day game in all these different cities. I went back to Latvia, and my results in Latvia were unbelievable, like unrealistic, unsustainable. Those stats were, I was basically kind of, when you're hungry, you go out to pick something up. Maybe you don't get a same day lay, but you definitely get some numbers. Those numbers respond. They come on dates, and they come on dates to fuck you. So seriously, like the best way to judge how your game has evolved is go back to a city you used to and see how much the results have improved. Well, those trips might give you like an insight about how it is to go on longer day game trips and how different each city is. Because seriously, every city is very, very different, and game and experiences that you'll get in each city are different. Especially if you don't just stay in one shopping mall or on the one shopping street, but actually explore the city and day game at different locations, and you'll see how different each city is. But I want to talk a bit about the hardship of long-term solo day game travel. The idea of packing off your stuff, and this is about the way I live, because I left my apartment in Riga. I moved out in end of August 2019, and actually almost a year. It's been almost a year since I lived from an Airbnb to an Airbnb. Apart from when it was COVID time, from March to August, but even then, even though I was in Riga, I was still living in an Airbnb. So almost a year I've been living with a backpack, traveling around the world. And the idea of packing up your stuff and moving out of your apartment, booking a flight, and starting to live a nomad lifestyle sounds appealing to so many people. Most who find out I live from one Airbnb to another, from one city to the next, are amazed and say they would love to live like that. Well, it is amazing, but it's also one of the hardest things I've done. As people that are closer to me, maybe my closer rings, know that it's not always, the sun isn't always shining, and it's not always positive, it's not always beautiful. Sometimes long-term solo travel is really, really hard. You have to take into consideration that going to a new place for a week is one thing, going there for a month is a different thing, and so is going there for a year. If you go on a shorter trip, like a week-long day game trip, I don't really consider it a day game trip. Maybe you do some sets and you kind of try something, and but it's not, unless you're really good at day game, you cannot expect to go to a city and get laid in a week. You have to be fairly good, or you have to get lucky, which happens. If you do enough sets in easy cities, you'll probably get laid. But is it a technical way to get laid? Do you actually learn day game skills that are applicable in other cities? And can you explain to your wings why you got laid and what are the things you did? And so I think day game trips and day game learning in general is a very technical process. If you've been listening to my podcast for a while, as you understand, or if you've done coaching with me, you see that what guys like in my coaching is I have a no bullshit approach. I'm very, very technical. I look at small details, and that's why guys send me infield recordings for analysis for Skype coaching calls, because the idea is to get someone who's better at you to notice things in sets that you don't notice and explain you in a very technical way what you should do and why you should do it. So I don't think short trips are actually day game trips. They're fun, they're nice, but it's not my understanding of a day game trip. But different people have different understandings. Well, when you go on a longer day game trip, let's say a month-long day game trip, well, what are the main reasons to do that? Well, you have a chance to run a good game. You don't have to rush your sets. If you have just a week and you get a number on day 4, well, you only have a few days to set up a date and then hope to get laid on the first date, which doesn't always happen. If you're there for a month, you have a chance to run a good game. You can do your sets, you can text properly without answering too soon or date requesting too soon, which is what happens a lot on shorter trips. So you run good sets from opening to texting to dating to closing. You don't have to sacrifice quality. Getting laid in a week is harder and you need more luck. Or, well, in really, really easy cities, and if you have really decent day game skills, then yeah, like it might be possible. But the big reason is you have a chance to run good game without saying, oh, I don't have time, I have to answer sooner, I have to date request sooner. Well, you're just gambling, you aren't really working on your day game skills, or it's more luck than your skills, whereas on a longer trip, it's more skills and much less luck. And well, so if a short trip is one thing, then a month-long trip is another thing, and then there's a big difference if you're in a city for longer than a month, let's say 3 months, or you decide to live there for a year. I know several guys that go to cities for 3 months, so let's talk a little bit about that. So the biggest pro with that is you get regulars, plus you build your social circle, your like friends, people you meet through your hobbies or work or whatever, and that makes the stay much more easier. Like, it makes it more comfortable because, well, you know some people there, so mentally it's easier. It's not like you're all the time away from your friends, from people close to you. You kind of build a new social circle. Let's just call it social circle, whatever. So that's a completely different thing. So you have to recognize which option you're picking and why, and what's the best approach from the perspective of day game. A good way to look at this is what I call the excitement curve. Think about the last time you went somewhere for more than a few days on your own without your friends or family. You arrive in a city and it's exciting. You see beautiful buildings, the architecture, the vibe is different, the food is different, people are different from what you're used to. And the thing is, a lot of the beauty in traveling for day game is if you go to a new city, girls there look just a little bit different than in your city. And it immediately kind of seems they immediately seem more beautiful just because they're not what you're used to. And well, you have to find local beer you like, of course, and you do some sightseeing, local cuisine bars, and chilling out by the beautiful river that runs through any big city in Europe. After a few days, maybe a week, well, you've seen it all. How much sightseeing and eating can you do? The good news is the vacation is over and you can go back home, back to your loved ones and friends, and get back to your reality, what you're used to. But what if it isn't over? You are in a beautiful city where you don't know almost anyone, you've done all the exciting things and you've done the sets, but you haven't cracked the city yet, so you don't have the day game results yet, and maybe it's tough at times to keep going out when you haven't cracked the city. Well, you've done it all, you've seen it all, and it doesn't go as you expected, and all of a sudden it's not fun anymore. At this point, after like around a week in, it comes down to your approach to day game trips. What kind of a month you are going to have. If you stay in this state that I've seen it, I've done it, and now what the fuck do I do? If the only thing you're doing there is day gaming and watching Netflix, then that puts you in a really shitty state. Some guys, if they have history of alcohol abuse, then boom, they get back to drinking because, well, life is shit. I'm here for a month. What the fuck am I gonna do? That's one of the ways to experience this month, have a shitty month in a city you don't know anyone at. Or if you have a nice way to keeping your shit together and understanding what to do to make the most out of a trip, how to make sure your mental state stays good, and yeah, you can still have a month in this city. So we'll talk a bit later about how to do that, how to make sure your mental state is good, what I've found the most useful things for myself and for my wings and students in other cities, and I'll tell you all about that. Another thing you have to take into consideration is friends and connections back home. Your old friends are back at your home country living their lives, and if you are doing long-term traveling, not just a month but longer, you lose connection to some of them. You definitely lose most of the girls you were sleeping with. If for the first few months you still have a feeling there is a home somewhere in the world, then after a while it slowly fades away. You have nostalgic memories and feelings, but at the same time, I kind of remember why I moved away. And even though I have those feelings, the nostalgic and whatever, I still know I don't want to go back. And my Airbnb is my home now. For me, the only thing tying me to Riga, Latvia is I still have some friends there that I love to see, and they are some of the oldest friends that I've known, well, either half of my life or all of my life, and I still have a great connection with them. I still have a few girls there that I'm seeing and that are important to me, and that's what kind of keeps the connection. But imagine if you're going, let's say you live in Europe or you go to the US or on a day game trip, or let's say you live in New York City and you decide to go on a day-game trip to Europe because you've heard how amazing those cities in Europe are, and you finally want to get out of New York, this crazy, hectic city, loud and full with people and tough to day game, and you want to go to one of those beautiful cities in Europe, whether that's Budapest or Prague or somewhere in Poland or Riga, Latvia, and you want to experience that because you read so many stories about how beautiful the cities are and how beautiful the girls are and how amazing everything is there. And don't get me wrong, it really is amazing. But the hard thing is when you are so far away from home, it means you are many hours, you have many hours time zone difference with your closed ones. And the hardest thing for me when I went to Toronto, apart from jet lag, which fucking sucked, like 7 or however many hour difference, fuck that. Well, the hard thing was when it was morning for me, it was like middle of the day, evening-ish in Riga. And when I came back after coaching my students, let's say I come back at 7, well, it's 2 a.m. if I'm not wrong, or maybe even 3 a.m. in Riga, Latvia. So it's really hard to stay connected with your friends, and you want to come back home, you're in the city where you don't know anyone, and you just want to hop on a call, on like a FaceTime call with your friends, and you cannot because they're asleep. So that's one thing to keep into mind. It's kind of easier if you go from US to Europe, because then you are in the Europe in the evening and it's still middle of the day in USA, so that's a tiny bit easier. But having your friends and loved ones, so many in like a different time zone, when like the difference is like 7 maybe more hours, that is definitely one of the tough things about long-term travel if you are further away from home. And now finally, let's talk about how to keep your shit together, how to not lose your mind and enjoy your stay and get the most out of your trip. What I've learned, the first most important thing I've learned, and I understood this after the first trips. I got a glimpse at it after the first trips. Then afterwards, I understood, okay, this is really important. And then this is the trip where I really focused on it, and I really did the work to implement what I understood. And that is, first week is when you build your foundation. You seed the seeds to have an amazing experience. So what you do during the first week on a month long or a 3 week long trip is what determines what all of your trip is gonna look like. Let me remind you, it will be tough. The first week, yes, it's beautiful, but it's tough. You don't know anyone. Maybe the day game isn't going as you expected, and you're in a completely different environment. If you are from New York and you go to Europe, it's like day and night. Environment, like, it's just two completely different environments. When I was in New York, like, I was in a different world. It felt as if I was on a different planet. All the skyscrapers and like so many people, and it's so loud. It's just really, really tough. So it will be tough, and you have to be ready for it. And what you don't want to do is don't fall back into old habits. If you have alcohol or drug problems, don't drink just because you're bored or feel like shit. That's why in the first week you have to build a routine, and I think it's really important to have a hobby. You probably have a hobby that you do in your life outside of day game. Maybe you're going to the gym, maybe you're boxing, maybe you're doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as I am. Whatever it is you do, going on a trip, still keep that hobby. So let's talk about that first week. Number one most important thing in the first week, in my opinion, and some might say, oh yeah, the most important thing is do fucking sets, yeah, day game. Well, no, I think the most important thing is have a routine. If at home you wake up at 9 a.m., let's look at my routine. My routine is I wake up, I take a shower, I end the shower with a cold shower, I shave my head, do everything I have to do. Then I meditate using Sam Harris Waking Up application. And then I do my stretching because I'm like 32 years old and I have a fucked up back, so I have to take care of it. And then I eat my breakfast, and then I either get coffee and have coffee at home and start working, or I go out for a coffee and I take my laptop and I start working. So if you have that routine at home, and that's what I do in every city I go to, if I have that routine, that's what I have to do here, wherever here is. So keep following your routine so that you have some constant in your life, and it will make you feel much better instead of staying up late every night, even when you don't have dates, even when you aren't out with friends, just watching Netflix till 3 a.m. and drinking beers in your Airbnb, having a shit sleep, sleeping till noon, going out in a shitty state, doing some sets, but well, not many, walking too much when you're sightseeing, then you're exhausted, you can't do your shit. So make sure you have your routine and stick to your routine. And if you don't have your routine where you live from, then, well, it's not a good idea. I'm a big fan of Tim Ferriss, as many of you know, and when someone asked Tim Ferriss, well, you've interviewed so many really successful people about their habits, about their routines, about their structures. What's the one habit that you have found that they all have in common? And what Tim Ferriss first said, well, he actually answered the question later, but what he first said was there is no routine or habit that they all have in common. But what everyone successful has in common is they have a routine, their own routine. And if you want to know the answer, which is the one habit that all of the successful people have in Tim Ferriss's experience, is meditation. They all meditate. So obviously, don't substitute meditation for overcoming approach anxiety by taking action and doing sets, but meditation is, yeah, when I travel, it's important for me. So, number one, do your routine. Number two, as you would expect, do shitload of sets. First week is when you have to do a lot of sets. I set a goal for a week. I don't usually meet the goal because first week for me is mentally the hardest, and I still kind of have to overcome approach anxiety in a new city, and I don't usually do as many sets as I wanted, but I still try to do as many as I can in the first city. First of all, why? To get leads, because the sooner you get the lead, the more time you have to do quality day game, quality texting, quality dating, and quality closing. That's super important, getting those leads as soon as possible. The second is, well, you go out and you understand what works in a city, and you have more kind of a head start if you'd like to understand the game and adjust your game to figure out what works in that city. So have a routine and do shitloads of sets. I suggest if you've done coaching with me or if you've done the new Daygamer program, the program that gets new beginners to from like off and on learning day game to actually putting in the time and me kicking their ass a little bit and going to 25 sets a week in 2 months from zero. If you've done that, then you know that I suggest scheduling your day game sessions, which is what I also suggest when you travel. Schedule your day game sessions, put them on a calendar. Third thing, we touched upon this earlier, do your hobby. If you have a hobby, whatever it is, gym, boxing, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, whatever, well, join the gym or if you play chess, whatever it is, I don't give a fuck. Like, find where you can do this in that city, whichever city you're in, and boom, join other people doing it. Being focused on just day game sucks because then there is just one thing to occupy your day and mind. Don't be one of the idiots day gaming 8 hours a day because there are guys doing that. Well, day game 2 hours and have a life during the rest of your day. It can really fuck you up if you are in a tough city, don't get any results for day game, and you have nothing else going on in your life. That's why I whichever city I go to, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu there. I find suggestions online with the best gym to join. I go there. If I'm there for a month, I just get like an unlimited membership for a month, and boom, I go in when I have a free evening, when I'm in the mood to do that. I go in. Sometimes even when I don't want to, I know that I have to get myself out of a shitty state. I'll just go and I'll just go roll on the floor and simulate murder with locals. And you kind of meet those people, and it's fun to hang out with them in the gym and get to know each other. So number 3 tip for keeping your sanity is keep doing your hobby when you are traveling. Again, if you're a gym rat, then remember, abs don't get you chicks, going out gets you chicks, so still go out and do your sets. What else? You can hang out with other day gamers as a bonus. It's a last priority. It's not important. You're there to get laid, not to talk about day game. First comes day game, then comes talking. Go do your 10 sets, and then in the evening meet other day gamers. Don't build a habit of going out with 3 other guys or even with one. Don't build that habit. Learn to day game on your own. I personally get better results when I day game solo, when I'm not out with the wing, and I've heard the same from many other experienced day gamers, how they get better results when they are day gaming solo. And when you're day gaming solo, you have more time to work on your game, and you can think about the sets more, and you can kind of deal with the shit that's going on in your head a little bit more. So I really think solo day game is the way to go. And well, of course, some extra things to do is remember that you are in a new city. Explore the city, explore the country. Go online and check out what are the things you should do, what are the places you should see. Don't stay just on a few main day game streets, hanging out there, just day gaming all day. Explore, be a tourist. Go eat the local food, check the local sites, check out the local nature. Maybe there are some really dope places where you could like take a day trip. Frank is really good at it. Whenever we go on some trips, Frank is the guy who always finds like some other cities to go to or some restaurants to check out or some places of the city we have to check out. He's really, really good at it. He does his homework. I'm really lazy at that shit, but here in Budapest, I kind of realized how important that is, and I do it more and more on each of my day game travels. Because well, especially if you're in a city far away, well, when's the next time you're gonna be there? Maybe never. So take the full advantage and have a bit of a life. Enjoy the city. Otherwise, if you just want to stay on a few streets and day game and that's all you do, well, you can do that in your home city or in a city closer to your place. And obviously the last thing I want to mention is FaceTime or call your friends. Have a chat with your friends back home once in a while, even if they're many time zones away. You can still hop on a call with them and talk with them. Talk to your family. I FaceTime and talk to my sister, or I talk to my grandparents over Skype, or sometimes with my parents. Everyone usually wants to know how I'm doing, what are the sites like, because remember, people don't travel as much or to maybe the locations you go to. So it's interesting for them to find out what is it like there. So FaceTime, call your friends, your family, and it really helps to ground you and remember that, well, uh, yeah, it just grounds you is what I wanna say. If you are like me, you're probably talking to tens of beautiful girls every week, and you go to gym to roll on the floor and try to choke and break each other's arms with sweaty local men. And in the gym or whatever it is you do, you still find people that have the same vibe as you, and they're fun to hang out with while you're training. And after a few weeks, you've met a few girls you hang out with once in a while, or maybe you hang out with them just for sex. Maybe you really hit it off and are hanging out outside the bedroom as well and are having great experiences. It's still exciting, it's still fun, you've kind of cracked the city. But one day, at least for me, it starts kind of creeping up on me. I go out and I get this feeling, been there, done that, and then I understand, well, I'm done with this city, just as the one I was in month before. And then I book a new ticket, I move out of the Airbnb, and the circle starts all over again. And one thing that I have found really, really weird living from Airbnb to Airbnb, and this is really strange. It's always so weird for me. Imagine if you don't have an apartment and you live in an Airbnb, and you're leaving the city, you have an Airbnb booked in the next city. So you take your backpack, you walk out of the Airbnb, you close the doors, you lock the doors, you leave the key. And as you walk out of the building, you're basically homeless until you get to the next city, hopefully find your Airbnb, hopefully find your host, and you have a new home again. It's a really, really weird feeling. And now let's talk about, let's say you are in a bit of a shitty vibe, and how do you get your vibe up to go back out? What do you do? Because when I got the lay on the Saturday, and then I went out with the Russian chick on Sunday and had a nice date with her, and then 2 days later I text the Russian chick and she just says, like, responds by saying she's not interested. And there I am. I have one kind of fillet in the city, and my only live lead, this Russian chick, says she's not interested. I've been there for a little bit more than a week, and all of a sudden I have zero leads, and it kind of fucks with my head really bad. And what I realized is it fucks with my ego, because like once you start coaching, you kind of you're Saint Robert. You kind of you have to go to a city and get laid. But after, like, yeah, and it really fucks with your ego. And day game travel is what humbles me so much. It shows me, well, you're just a day gamer. You're just a normal dude. You go to a new city and you're not getting laid there. Now you have to learn what works there and crack the city. And I think that's the difference between guys who improve fast and slow, is the ability to be consistent, the ability to build those habits and crack those new cities. So I'm going out, and as I'm going out, this Russian chick sent me a text where she basically says she's not interested, and it crashes my ego. I feel like shit, but I'm out. Like, I'm going out to do some sets, and I want a day game. And I realize the only thing I can do is go out and do more sets and get more leads. But now I'm in this funky state, and I have to lift my vibe up so I feel better, so I don't feel like shit. And I've written down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 things that help me with my vibe when I'm going out in a new city, when I see that stuff isn't working. Number one is I stick to the basics. Do not experiment. Don't try new shit. Don't try new types of stops or whatever. Stick to the basics of the day game. Do a strong front stop 100% in front of a girl. Love slow voice. And even more important than voice, posture. Make sure, especially if you're a tall guy like I am, make sure you're standing straight, your back is straight. Good stop, good posture, good voice. It's the same opener, copy paste, stick to the basics. Yeah, so that's number one. Second one, music. Music plays an important role, at least for me. Music is something that I can affect. I can kind of play with my mood a lot if I want to be in a positive mood. Last 2 days when I went out, I was listening to Shaggy. I opened Shaggy in Spotify and I just was listening. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. And he's such a playful dude that it just puts me in a funny, nice, like a really positive state, and it helps. Whereas if you listen to something like if you put on Deftones and you're just gonna be in a fucking sad vibe, and that's not the vibe you want when you're day gaming. So put on some music, some positive shit that really makes you smile and be happy about the day. The next one is focus on one thing. Know what you are focusing on in a set, have a goal for the session. Maybe it's just go out and do your first sets in a city. Maybe you want to go out and you have this one session where, okay, I want to do 10 sets today. That's the goal of the day. Maybe it's you want to focus on really strong front stops, which is what I focused on yesterday, and then day before that I was just focusing on doing really strong front stops, and boom, that changed everything, and all of a sudden it works. Also, maybe you're focusing on using this one type of stack and you know that will kind of help your game, or you think so. Find one thing you have to focus on, one goal for the session, and focus on that. Another option, what you can do is you can record your sets. That can be also a way to lift up your vibe. You are not focusing on the results of the day game interaction. You are focusing on listening back to your sets. That's why you're out. You're not out, well, you are out to get laid, of course, but to kind of separate yourself from results, or whatever the term is. You're focusing on recording the sets. It's still you still should always go for the numbers, always go for the close, maybe go for eye dates, whatever it is that you're focusing on, but you still can record sets, and then that's one of the ways to improve your vibe and to find a new thing to focus on. Number 5, check out hot chicks. Don't stay in your apartment. Go out for a walk and just look at how beautiful they are. I went out today and I was kind of tired after yesterday. I day gamed 3 hours yesterday, and I kind of went out for the morning coffee today to this nice place, Espresso Embassy, not far from my Airbnb, really good specialty coffee. And I thought, well, maybe I won't do sets today, we'll see. And I see these beautiful girls with amazing asses or beautiful tits and cleavages. I'm like, oh my god, I want a day game so bad. So go out and check out those hot chicks. If you don't want to go out day gaming, the worst thing to do is stay in your apartment. Don't stay in your apartment. Go out and just look around. Number 6 is high energy opens. You can do the front stop slowly, or you can really run in front of a girl, like boom, like hey, sorry, da 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 da, like really overly positive energy. That it might seem overly positive, it probably is not. It probably isn't too high of an energy. It's probably just what you need if you're in a shitty state. So number 6 is focus on high energy opens. Number 7, if the stop is working and you know that the opener and the stack you use is usually working, and but you feel kind of robotic and you see it isn't working anymore, but your open is high energy enough, you're 100% in front of her, the posture, the voice is good, everything is good, but you still kind of see that your open isn't working or your stack isn't working, try a new stack or a new opener. Experiment with it. Try something new. One new thing that could be the one thing you're focusing on. You're trying out a new opener. Make sure you don't improvise and do a different open in each set. No, stick to one thing and see how that works. Tip number 8 to lift up your vibe. Take a day off. You don't have to day game 7 days a week. It's actually exhausting. You might be walking 20,000 steps a day, which is a lot. And if you do that every day and if you're not used to that, then your body just gets exhausted and you feel like shit. So take a day off, go somewhere by the nature, do something on your laptop, maybe get some work done, or I don't know, write a blog post or whatever. So take a day off. And tip number 9, the last tip and the last important tip, go out to the wing. If you usually go out solo, if you always go out solo, then well, go out to the wing and have some fun. Maybe listen to his sets, or he might listen to your sets. I don't do that anymore, but if that's your thing, then yeah, do that. Well, one important thing, if you go out with the wing, don't be a bitch. Like, don't complain about, it's such a tough city, no, 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 no. And then you'll very likely either be a shitty wing, or it's also very likely that the wing will, well, most day gamers love bitching and whining, and that's normal sometimes. Like, day game is tough, but don't be a bitch. Yeah, don't whine, because you risk turning it into a situation where you're two day gamers and you're both whining about how tough the city is and this doesn't work and this doesn't work and you should go to another city, blah 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 blah, and just like a downward spiral, non-productive. So make sure you are kind of keeping a positive vibe and just enjoying the day together. This is the last resort. It's not something I suggest. I'm still all for solo day game. Or if you are day gaming all the time with the wing, do the opposite thing. Go out solo. Don't go out to the wing and try to work on your game on your own. When you hear how tough it sometimes is to go on day game trips and how mentally taxing it can be, you might ask, well, Robert, why do you keep doing it? Why do you keep going on those trips? And why do you keep kind of messing, why do you keep struggling? What the fuck is this? Well, first of all, it's not like that all the time. In many cities, I'm meeting my wings friends and I hang out with my day game coaching students. It's fun to be in a city with a bunch of other day gamers, But as you learn sooner or later, bringing a bunch of day gamers to a small or average city is not the best idea. That being said, Belgrade, Serbia in the autumn of 2019 is still my favorite day game trip. Even though day game wise it was a disaster, but we had an amazing time, and I mostly have amazing time when I travel for day game. It's usually really, really good. There are tough times, but I love it. Not 80% of it is fucking amazing and beautiful, but there's the 20% where it feels like shit and you just have to know how to deal with it. And now, well, after this podcast, hopefully you do. Long-term solo travel has given me so much. I've seen cities so different one from another, old castles and towers of Prague and the skyscrapers of New York City or Chicago, and that alone is worth it. Well, at least for a while, and while it's interesting. I've met some amazing, inspiring people. Yes, I've lost connections with some of the friends back in Latvia, but I've built connections with new people from all over the world, in Prague, New York City, Belgrade, Antwerp, and some of them are travelers as well. I've met inspiring people who've been running their online businesses and traveling for years. I've met beautiful and interesting girls in different cities. Some of them we've met for a few hours, and others we've had amazing times and experiences together for several days or even longer. And to some of them I've never spoken again, and to others I chat regularly, and there is always a chance, or this exciting feeling that one day maybe we'll meet again. I saw the simplicity of Serbia. Each day has shown and taught me something. Serbia, or rather each city has kind of showed and taught me something. Belgrade in Serbia, for example, showed me how happy people can be even when they don't have that much. In Belgrade, most people live simple lives. It's kind of like Europe 15 years ago. But every day I went out to their shopping restaurant street, Knez Mikhailova, and I saw hundreds of happy people out with their families and friends having coffee, beers, dinner, or just chilling outside. Compared to most cities in EU, they have much less in their lives, but they seem so much happier, so excited about life, and just so positive people, and that's really beautiful. Or when I went to New York City, that's an amazing experience. Whatever you think is a lot of money in your city is probably nothing in New York City. I stayed in two apartments as an example, and both of them were in Manhattan. One's simpler apartment but in a great location, and I found out it was 2,700 a month, which is what the fuck. And I stayed in another one, which was in a posh high-rise, also in Manhattan, but further away from all the day game locations. It was next to Wall Street, and it was 4,500 a month. It's incredible. You just see the big business of New York and the scale of thinking in New York City, and it's just inspiring. And the ambitions in the city are just as high. And since I'm working with people from all over the world, New York City taught me to set new goals. Why set Latvian goals if I work with so many people from some of the largest cities in the world? So you might go to New York City for day game and bring back much more than your day game experience. You might bring back home a new view and a new view on life, new look at life, and new goals. I really hope I didn't scare you with all the stories I told on this podcast about the toughness of day game, because as you hear from my experiences, uh, toughness of day game travel is just a small part, and it usually comes with amazing experiences with beautiful girls, with beautiful people, with amazing people you meet and hang out with, and I love it. That's what I've been doing for a year, and I'll hopefully keep doing it for a lot longer. And towards the end of this podcast, I want to talk about a little bit different topic, the struggle of learning day game and committing to day game and becoming consistent at it. The difference between guys that keep off and on learning day game and kind of doing it, the difference between them and the guys who really become consistent, commit to day game and achieve great results, get regulars, and not just in their city, but they can go to a new city, for example, Belgrade or Prague or wherever they want to go, and in a few weeks' time have several regulars there and can fully enjoy their stay there. We live in the times of theory, and so many of us are theory junkies. Don't get me wrong, I was a theory junkie when I got started. I read everything I could, I watched everything I could, I listened to all the podcasts I could, but on top of I was doing that when I wasn't going out, but I was going out almost every day and day gaming all the time. So don't be a theory junkie. Don't just consume theory nonstop. Yes, read several books and PDFs. That like guys have read several books and PDFs, watched in fields, but they're all about the same thing. They're very similar. The theory in all the books, if you look at all the books about London day game model, the theory is very similar with small differences based on the coaches or the authors' kind of view on London day game model. But it's all of the PDFs and books are almost the same, and that's why I don't create any content on day game techniques. Like, have you seen any videos from me where I explain how to day game, how to stack, or any other shit like that? I don't do that because it's all have been written. It is all available. Most of it is available for free online, and there is no more need for new material. I've chosen to focus on completely different thing. I focus on helping guys to stop reading and start doing. That's what I've been doing since I started my website, since I started this podcast. That's what I'm all about. Yeah, I focused on that. in my writing, in my podcast, in my coaching, how to overcome approach anxiety, how to do 10 sets in a session regularly, how to do 25 sets per week and stick with it, how to be consistent with day game, or how to get rid of what are other people thinking when they see me talk to a random girl. Many day gamers think that they just have to do it, they just have to day game, and that's when everything will happen. But they keep day gaming off and on for years, and it's very similar to fitness. You think that all you need is just to have motivation, and then you'll go to the gym and you'll become fit. If you're a gym rat or if you have built a business, you know that it's much more than that. You need much more than motivation. It's about the days when you don't want to go. It's about the times you fall off the wagon and stop going to the gym. Or you're going inconsistently. It leads to nowhere, and if you've succeeded in any one thing in your life, you know what I'm talking about. It's about much more than just, I have to just go and do it. It's about goals, it's about habits, it's about days when you don't want to go out, it's about times when you take a break because you have to fully immerse yourself in this new work project and it's so important, and when it's done, oh, then it will be the perfect time to really learn day game, go on a day game trip, get coaching. Like, it's all about these situations. If you have been learning day game off and on, it's time to pause and look at your choices from a different perspective. Like, pause, take a look at what you've done, and understand that it's time to pull the trigger and start taking day game more seriously. Once you know how to overcome approach anxiety, do more sets, have good game, and be consistent with it, it's not that difficult to get a few very nice girls as regulars, whether that is in your city during a day game trip or a city you go to during one of your digital nomad endeavors. Whatever it is you need to do to finally become consistent in day game, pull the fucking trigger. Maybe it's learning to go out more, moving to a place that's better for day game, getting some Skype coaching to figure out how to create better habits for day game, or to work on your sets. Or maybe it's to book and field coaching in a warm place with really hot girls. If you've been at it for a year or more, it's time to pull a trigger and commit to really becoming a good day gamer. You can't become a good day gamer by doing it off and on, off and on, off and on. It's not how it works. So I really encourage you, pull the fucking trigger. That's it for today, guys. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.